Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on, to better explain what's going on, and talk about things that I think that are being done right and are done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
Hello, I'm Sergeant Panis, Supervisor of the St. Louis County Police Public Information Office. This critical incident briefing is intended to provide you with information about an officer-involved shooting that occurred on April 16, 2024 in the 10,700 block of West Florissant Avenue in the city of Ferguson, Missouri. As part of our commitment to transparency, we will show you relevant video footage, evidence, and the law enforcement response to this incident. Because this investigation is still active, our goal is to provide you with a better understanding of what occurred based on what we know up to this point. The St. Louis County Police Department conducts thorough use of force investigations, which typically require detectives to interview multiple witnesses, view numerous hours of video footage, and analyze a significant amount of forensic evidence. This portrayal is not intended to draw any conclusions about whether the involved officers acted consistent with their department policies and the law, until all the facts are known and the investigation is finalized. Investigations involving uses of force could take several months to complete. A word of caution, the images you are about to see may be disturbing.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Cunningham, Commanding Officer of the Division of Criminal Investigation. On Tuesday, April 16, 2024, St. Louis County Police Crimes Against Persons detectives were requested by the Ferguson Police Department to investigate an officer-involved shooting that occurred in the city of Ferguson. At approximately 1:33 a.m., two men traveling together in a white Ford Escape arrived at a convenience store located in the 10,700 block of West Florissant Avenue. The driver, who was also the victim in this case, entered the store to make a purchase. Around the same time, an on-duty Ferguson police officer also arrived at the convenience store in a fully marked police vehicle and went inside to make a purchase. At approximately 1:36 a.m., the victim returned to the vehicle, drove to the gas pumps, and stopped. A few moments later, the Ferguson police officer exited the store and heard gunfire. He placed a bag on his vehicle and approached the white Ford Escape on foot. The officer heard additional gunfire and observed a victim fall from the driver's seat. An armed suspect climbed out of the vehicle through the driver's door. The officer shouted verbal commands as he approached. The suspect did not comply, and the officer fired his weapon, striking the suspect. The suspect ran towards West Florissant Avenue and collapsed in the roadway. Both the victim and suspect were pronounced deceased on scene. You're about to see relevant surveillance video footage of the incident, as well as the Ferguson police officer's body-worn camera video.
Body-worn cameras worn by the Ferguson Police Department have a 1-minute buffer of video without audio. Upon activation, the camera goes back 1 minute and begins to record. The cameras are worn on outer vest carriers by most officers in the department. Available lighting, movement, distance, and other factors can affect clarity and picture quality. Viewer discretion is strongly advised.
.34 shots fired, quick trip, suspect down.
The victim is identified as Detarius Haynes, age 26, of the 900 block of Coal Bank Road in St. Louis, Missouri. The suspect is identified as Joshua Campbell, age 18, of the 1500 block of Knollway Drive in St. Louis, Missouri. The preliminary investigation revealed that Campbell shot Haynes and he collapsed and died near the gas pump. The Ferguson police officer then shot Campbell. Campbell ran onto West Florissant Road where he collapsed and died. A 9mm pistol attributed to Mr. Campbell was located on scene. A total of 10 casings recovered at the scene are attributed to Mr. Campbell's weapon. In total, 8 shots were fired by the responding Ferguson police officer. The City of Ferguson police officer involved in this incident is 37 years of age with 9 years of law enforcement experience. The officer was not injured.
The St. Louis County Police Department has all its non-sensitive policies and procedures available on our website, www.stlouiscountypolice.com. The policy applicable to this incident and release of information is General Order 6.
All right, we'll skip that. So, where to start? Let's go here. So the officer is already there, and it looks like this is his cruiser. And so it looks like the officer was already there, and then they showed up. If that's not the officer, then, I guess he could have showed up a little bit after that. But looking at the position of their vehicle right here, and so let me see if I can get this to change a little bit. See if that ring, I don't know if that ring moves or not. Yeah, it moves. All right. So right in here is the light pole, right? The big concrete base right here for it. And so the driver's side wheels kind of match up with that, basically, right? And it almost, from this angle, if it's not a straight line to it, then maybe the vehicle is a little to the right, and if it went straight forward, maybe it would touch on the right side of that pole. So that puts the passenger side pretty far out. And there's multiple vehicles here. At first we've got a white car, and then there's, I think, a red car. And so you have to go to the body cam footage. Right? And so there's those two cars, that kind of a white car. I think this truck pulled up after that car pulled out. But here's that light pole right there. Concrete base in the pole. And so the driver's side tires of that vehicle were either almost in line with this pole or were kind of right in there. So that would put the passenger of that vehicle, that would put the passenger in that vehicle sitting, look like, just on the other side of these bollards right here. And with these vehicles right here, and let's see if I can get to go back. I went too far forward.
Only advised.
These cars are far forward, and his cruiser is a little further back in comparison to these. These look a lot closer to the bollards. He's a little bit further back. So, with the positioning of this vehicle, these vehicles, and that vehicle that the suspect was in, I have a feeling that the suspect had no idea that the officer was even there. And even when you look at the cruiser here, it's got minimal marking on it. In fact, I kind of like the more simplistic marking scheme like this. I don't really care for cruisers that have like all these stripes and emblems and stuff all over them. I am totally fine with just a simple wording of police on the side. I don't even particularly care for the ones that have the big blocky letters all across the side. I think this is plenty fine, big enough for marking needs. And so, it's not that large of a marking. It's an all-white cruiser. It's not a black and white design. And, of course, these light bars are kind of small, especially, in comparison to the big clunky rotators back in the day. But it has a very thin profile, and so it may not be as very noticeable off from the side. And it's not even, you don't see blue lenses on it or anything like that. So I just don't think the suspect knew the officer was even there. Why else would you commit a murder right in front of a police officer? It just makes no sense, knowing they could get over there so quickly. So I don't think he knew anything about that officer being there. And so when that officer showed up and started shooting him, that dude was probably authentically scared for his life. And that brings some kind of satisfaction to me. Because this dude, as far as we know, has unjustifiably killed a person. He has murdered a person. All right, as far as we know, he had no good, justifiable reason for taking that person's life. And I suspect that he was doing that under the mindset that he's never going to get caught for that. It's super early in the morning. He never got out of the car. No cameras spotted him. They're off over into the side where the pumps are. There's no one around immediately to him. No good witnesses. I think this dude thought that he was going to do what he was going to do, and no one was ever going to catch him. And then in the middle of what I think is a murder robbery, boom, this hero cop shows up to him out of nowhere. Like he got beamed down by the Star Trek Enterprise and was just there and started shooting. So I'd say that bad guy was scared shitless. And probably died scared. He died scared and alone in that roadway. And like I said, that brings some satisfaction to me. I think that's poetic justice because, as I said, as far as we know, he unjustifiably killed that person for no good reason. Just straight up murdered him. And that's wrong. So, 1:30 something in the morning, this dude obviously looking like he is not, out selling Bibles early in the morning. I think that this was probably a murder robbery. I don't think that I don't think it was a situation where the two of them were in a position where they had known each other for a very long time. I think that their connection was a short one. Like they probably met recently. They had been knowing of each other, loosely knew of each other, something like that. I don't think that they were, best friends or anything like that. And I think this was probably a case of this dude was wanting to rob the other guy, kill him, and take all his stuff. There's also the possibility that drugs are involved. So when you look at murders and attempted murders, the majority of them across the board, if it's not a lover's quarrel kind of a thing, then it is involving drugs and or money. And if it's just money, then it's money probably related to drugs. Not trying to victim shame or anything like that, but if that is the case, then obviously the victim is no saint either, which is typical of street violence like this. The murder quote unquote victims, although they are in the eyes of the law a victim of a crime, in the eyes of some public opinion, they're not really victims at all, because they were engaged in a shady lifestyle, and some people would say they had what was coming to them. Now, I don't know anything about the victim or anything like that, so I'm not saying that's what it was, but at minimum, I do feel like this was probably a murder inspired by the intent for a robbery. And another thing that I think that is the lack of noticing the police car. And I think that during that time frame, instead of him looking around in this parking lot, I think he was probably rummaging around inside that car looking for stuff to steal, and was so focused on doing that he just didn't notice the police car there. At age 18, this guy doing what he did, I would not be surprised to find out if this guy has committed other violent crimes before, and obviously would not be surprised to find out if this guy's been involved in the criminal justice system multiple times already, even at age 18. So that would mean that his involvement in the criminal justice system would have started as a teenager, and maybe even as a child at 10 years of age. It's possible, but for sure as a teenager he's been involved in the system, and that would make sense that he's been involved in the system at a younger age and has gotten to this point of committing a murder. You don't just turn 18 and then go out and do things like this, right? There's a build up to that. And if you're age 18, where's that build up occurring? Well, when you're a teenager, a juvenile. So would not be surprised to find out if this dude had been committing crimes and violent crimes as a teenager. Would not be surprised at all to find out if he possibly had been involved in shootings. It is very common to see juveniles involved in very violent crimes, like shooting at people and or shooting people and the other people not dying, and they get caught for it, and they don't do a lot of time at all. It's a miscarriage of justice, but it happens a lot. I can tell you here in Kentucky, there are juvenile offenders who they're living that street life, and they get in gunfights and they shoot at people, they shoot people, and then they kill people. But specifically the ones who shoot at people and or shoot people but are unsuccessful in killing them, when they get caught, they get charged with assault first. Even adults here in Kentucky, if you shoot someone and they don't die, it's assault first. It's a pretty serious charge. It's the closest to what we've got that would be a attempted murder. They will do this, get caught, and then they will be sentenced to a Youth Development Center, a YDC, managed by the Department of Juvenile Justice. And this is it's the equivalence of juveniles being sentenced to a prison, but in Kentucky, punishment is not an option for juveniles. So they're not sentencing them to punish them. Kentucky's mindset is they are remanding them to a place for treatment. They are going somewhere to be treated because they are viewed as victims of trauma. And at these YDCs and these other juvenile facilities, they treat these offenders under the guidelines of trauma-informed care because the state believes that these violent juvenile offenders were raised in violent traumatic lifestyles and households, and that they are victims of trauma, and that is why they were acting the way they were acting. So they don't need to be punished, they need to be treated. And so they'll go to this YDC, Youth Development Center, under the guise of being treated as if it's some type of medical problem for them to be out trying to kill people. And since it's what they would call a felony track, so they do a misdemeanor track and a felony track in these YDCs, and since it would be a felony track, they could do something like 8 months in a YDC. And the YDCs kind of have a nickname or a moniker to them. People refer to them as camps. So these were facilities that back in the day when DJJ did not exist, they were the boot camps for juveniles, right? Like juveniles got in trouble, they get sent off to a camp, and it was a boot camp. It had a paramilitary style regimen to it. They'd have to wake up super early in the morning, like 5 o'clock, go do PT, come back, shower, go to school. They had a school there on the property. They take them all to the classroom, they do all their school stuff, and then they get done, and they would have to, go perform work, go do more PT. Very structured. It was, military school style. They all marched in a formation, yes sir, no sir, or sir, yes sir, little stupid stuff like that. And so they kind of just kept the moniker of camp. And they're not like that anymore. They are supposed to, walk in a single file line. They are supposed to say yes sir, no sir, stuff like that. It's not really enforced. But there is no forced PT. There is no military structure style to it. They're not punished for anything that they've done there or that they do there. And while they're there, they'll do this seven book challenge, and they have to have group counseling sessions and then some one-on-one counseling sessions. And literally, these counseling sessions can consist of them sitting around in the counselor's office playing a board game. It can consist of them playing Hangman and doing a drug version of Hangman where they get to use names of drugs for the words of the game Hangman. It's a different world. It's stupid. So the juveniles will get caught for serious crimes. They'll get sent to a camp, and they do 8 months maybe a little bit longer, and that's it. And they are they're treated, right? Now they keep some of their criminal charges, their history. So they'll keep those charges and they may have a felony attached to them, and they will be a felon. But other than that, nothing else happens to them. Now they could end up having charges, amended down. They could get a diversion for stuff, or they could go through um, um, expungement stuff. Um, but for the most part, there's nothing that happens to them, and so you got juveniles who will have that kind of lifestyle, and there's some that they'll do multiple stays in a camp. Like they'll go to camp for one thing, they'll be out for a few months, get caught for something else, get put back in a camp again, and they could literally spend each year in a camp for 4 to 8 months, maybe 10 months, maybe 18 months, something like that. Just in and out of the system, and they don't have anything longer to stay for other than that. So they can quite literally build up quite a criminal background because they don't spend any great deal length of time locked up. It's very short duration of time. And because of that, it's a slap on the wrist. So they go out, they do serious crimes, get put away for a few months, go back out, get caught again, get put away for a few months, get caught again. Now, here's the thing to think about. Those times they get caught, there's a whole other bunch of times they were not caught. And it's not like they get released, a year goes by, and then they get caught for something else, and that was the only thing that they did within that year time frame. Hell no. They were doing other stuff. They just didn't get caught for it. So I have no doubt whatsoever that this guy is probably similar to that, probably been involved in multiple stuff, and if he was never caught for anything, doesn't mean he wasn't doing it. He was, I'm confident that he was doing stuff at an early age to explain why at age 18 right now he's out here committing the murder the way he's committing this murder. So long rant. Now there is the possibility that he was defending himself. It's a long shot. If it was something like that, I would think they would kind of put some information out like that in the video. But there's really no information on this case other than what's in this video and what is in the news articles. But you can see when this door opens, you can see the plume of dust or smoke or something coming from the vehicle, and I'd say that's from where bad guy's shooting his gun and all that particulate matter's in the air blowing outwards, and dude dumps out, and then officer comes up. So let's jump to the officer's body cam real quick. So he's gone in there, he's got himself a snack, and something is getting his attention right now. I don't quite know or think that it was gunfire right at this moment, because he just very kind of nonchalantly sets the bag on the hood, and then it's now at this point that he is running forward. So something was going on at this moment for him to kind of nonchalantly take the time to put his stuff on the hood and then start to go over here with a sense of urgency. So were they yelling? Was the first shot made while inside the vehicle and it was loud enough to get his attention, but not loud enough to be very clearly a gunshot? Because there are times where, for example, like active shooter incidents where multiple shots are being fired, there are times where people are confused about what's going on, and they don't even know for sure if it's gunfire that is happening. They just know that there's some loud noises, and they're like, what is that? And then it becomes apparent that it's gunfire. So did it start out like that? Did he hear something and was like, all right, something's going on over here, and then put his stuff down, start to make his way, and then boom, more gunshots, and he runs with urgency? Were they yelling? Was there a commotion going on? I don't know. But like I said, he very kind of nonchalantly, he's starting to open his snack, right? So like right in there, obviously nothing's going on. He's opening his snack. He's about to get some M&Ms out. And then, oh, never mind. Let me put my stuff down. I head this way. And boom. Now he's going to be running. So something caught his attention. But it wasn't an immediate life danger kind of attention grabber, because if it was, I would suspect that he would just drop the things that was in his hand immediately right then and there, not take the time to put them on the hood, and immediately go for a gun and start running quickly. As he comes up, he does not have a very huge window right here, so to speak. You've got brick column, and then you've got the gas pump island right here. And so this is his sight picture, so to speak. That's all he can see is in this space right here. He dumps a few rounds at the bad guy. Bad guy clears around. He comes up. And boom, he fires some additional rounds. So don't know which volley of rounds hit this guy. The ones as he's approaching and firing through the little small opening right here, or after the guy cleared the vehicle and got to the front, and then the officer fired a second volley of fire. Don't know at which point he got hit, but he did not make it a very far distance. He made it to the roadway and collapsed. I think that as he made his way to the roadway, I do think it's possible that he did trip a little right in there, or that could have been the final moment that he just finally collapsed.
Body-worn cameras worn by the...
But either way, whether he got shot before he went around the door or he got shot in that second volley as he cleared the front of the vehicle, the rounds that hit him killed him right there. So we literally get to see a dead man walking, in my opinion. Same as like when you can shoot a deer and you get a perfect shot on that deer and it jumps and it sprints off. It takes off for a short period of time and then boom, goes down. You killed that deer with that shot right there. It just didn't immediately die. So we get into, or you can get into the topic of physical incapacitation and mental incapacitation. So, and physical incapacitation versus lethal shots. So you can fire rounds into a person and they're going to be lethal. Like they are going to die from that. But it is not immediately physically incapacitating. It does not immediately switch them off like a light switch. Shooting them in the face, where your round goes into the tee box, that is an immediately physically incapacitating hit right there. On top of being a lethal hit, it is immediately physically incapacitating. You could shoot someone in the chest and the round go into the pericardial sac and into the heart. but it not immediately physically incapacitate them. They could still stay alive for a short amount of time before they become physically incapacitated. One famous case like this comes out of Miami and is very often quoted and referenced in training. So the Miami FBI shootout occurred back in the 1980s. It was between two bank robbers / armored car robbers that the FBI started tracking because they made a bunch of hits. And FBI tries to take them into custody, and a gunfight happens. And at the very beginning of this gunfight, one of the bad guys gets shot in his side with a 9mm. Bullet goes in and goes into the heart area. That one hit that hit him, he was shot multiple times after that too, but that one hit, that first hit in the gunfight on him, that was a lethal hit. He was going to die from that. But it was not immediately physically incapacitating. He was able to crawl out of that car, continue the fight, kill 2 FBI agents, seriously wound others, and during this process get shot more times, got shot multiple more times, and then crawl into a vehicle, one of the FBI agents' vehicles, gets into one of the FBI agents' vehicles and is starting to take off before he is finally shot multiple more times and put down. So that one hit at the beginning of that gunfight, that was lethal. Like, he was going to die from that. But it did not immediately physically incapacitate him, and he was able to continue the fight. So, and I've said it already, deer hunters, they shoot deer, it's a kill shot. Like, the deer dies from it. They shoot it once, right? They shoot that deer once, and that deer jumps up, jerks, takes off, sprints for, either a short distance or a long distance, and then drops down dead. Lethal hits, right? One shot, one kill. But it was not immediately physically incapacitating. So this guy's dead. Dead man walking, dead man running. It just hasn't caught up to him yet. We see this in some other videos. We don't always see this all the time, but there's enough incidents out there that sometimes this phenomenon occurs on camera. And I think that's what's happening here. I think he got lethal hits on him, but it was not immediately physically incapacitating, and he was able to run that short distance before collapsing. So, he is in flight mode at this point. He was initially in fight mode, and just like most criminals, they are only ambush type of predators. So they kind of get the drop on people. They surprise attack them, right? And then he gets his plan foiled by this officer, and as I already noted, the officer probably legitimately just like scared the shit out of him, and he takes off running. So what if he was not scared? What if he decided that he was going to fight? So the amount of time that it took for him to get from here to there, although it was very short, it is still enough time for him to have turned that gun towards that officer and begin firing multiple rounds. This is why hit placement is so important, and is why sometimes people have to shoot multiple times to stop the threat. I don't know how many times this guy's been shot, but he has been shot, we know, at least once. The officer fired multiple rounds. I would say it's likely he has more than one round in him. But what if he decided instead of running, what if he decided to continue to fight? That officer would have to fire some additional rounds to get him to stop, to cause such such enough blood loss, or put enough holes in him to create such a drop in blood pressure and everything that it would cause the physical incapacitation to occur more rapidly, or to hope that those rounds entering the thoracic cavity would hit the spinal column and cause an immediate incapacitation there, or one of the rounds hit the face, go into the T-box, and be the light switch that immediately shuts him down right then and there. And then, because the officer would have to fire so many rounds, of course, the anti-police crowd would start crying, "Why'd you have to shoot him so many times? Blah, 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 blah." Well, this is your answer right here. This guy has been lethally shot by a handgun, and he is still up moving around. The only reason why he was not shot a bunch of more times is because he's running away at this point. If he continued to act aggressive towards the officer and try to fight the officer, it would have taken a lot more rounds to drop him, to make him stop. So that's why some people get shot so many times. It literally takes that many rounds to get them to stop. Now, sometimes people are mentally incapacitated. They get shot once in a non-critical area, like they can get shot in the foot, and boom, they are done. They are out of the fight. They're like, "Screw this! I don't want no smoke," and they're done. Some people, not so much. Sometimes it takes many, many rounds to make them stop. And I think that this officer is rocking a SIG, which we don't see SIGs a whole lot anymore. I'm not going to get a good freeze frame. Let's go into playback speed. Go to the 0.25. Back it up just a little bit more. Fast forward. Is that too soon? Nope, just right, I think. All right. So yeah, that looks like the profile of a SIG right there. I think that's maybe a SIG P226. Got the hammer on it. Very, very nostalgic pistola right there. I don't see those too often out there anymore. It's mostly just striker-fired pistols that you see. A lot of Glocks. So it's kind of refreshing in a way to see a classic like that being pulled out. He did have, it looked like, a weapon-mounted light on there, but not too sure what it could be because the imaging on this is not the greatest. My guess is probably a Streamlight. I'm not going to get it. That's probably the best I could get. It looked like I saw that classic white ring on there that that the Streamlights have. So I think it's a Streamlight that he has on this SIG. I don't know if it's a P226 or not, but it's definitely a SIG pistol. So like I said, pretty cool to see an older pistol like that. He does not appear to activate the weapon-mounted light at any point during this gunfight. You can see not a whole lot with this. It's just blurry and very choppy footage. But it looks like the bad guy is standing. There's his face. Can't see exactly what's in his hands, but probably a gun in his hands. So he is shot the driver, is over top of the driver. I would suspect that, like I said, it's probably a murder robbery. So I'd say that he was probably going to be going through this guy's pockets at this point, probably trying to take the key fob out of his pocket so that he would take the vehicle somewhere and be able to restart it once he turned it off. And of course, taking anything of value on this guy. And officer comes up, engages. All right, so that's it for that. Let's go back into normal playback speed. So talked about most likely criminal background. Oh, let's talk about the pistola that he's got here. I have no idea what kind of gun this is. It might be a Walther. Kind of looks like it matches the kind of shape and profile of a Walther pistol, but I'm just not 110% sure if it is a Walther pistol. He's 18 years of age, so that tells me that he's not likely to have went and bought that thing at a gun store, because you have to be 21 years of age to buy a gun from a gun store. So how else did he come into possession of this pistol? It's possible that in that state, you can buy one in a private sale, like private person, citizen meets up with another private citizen who is not engaged in the business of selling guns. They have, they just have a pistol that they don't want anymore. They want to sell it, and they can do a private transaction, right? That's possible how he came into possession of that. It's possible that a family member had the pistol and they allowed him to borrow it, or a friend allowed him to borrow it. That's plausible. I don't think that that's likely. The most likely way that street thugs come across pistols and guns in general is they steal the things, or they buy them from someone who has stolen it. Him being 18 years of age, like I said, he's not going to be able to go into the gun store to buy one. And even if he was 21 years of age, I seriously doubt that he would have a clean enough criminal record to be able to buy one. I would say that he would probably be a person who is prohibited from possessing a firearm. And so if the gun that they're buying from someone isn't stolen, then they're basically buying it from someone who is performing a straw purchase for them. They find someone they know who doesn't have any prohibiting criminal background, and that they are legally allowed to go buy a gun, and so they give that person the money to go make that legal gun purchase, and then they just bring the gun back to them. That act in and of itself is illegal. It's called a straw purchase, but it is also something that is extremely hard to prove and arrest and convict people on, because pretty much the only sure shot way of being able to arrest and convict someone is if they admit to doing that exact thing. Not just the act of buying it and reselling it, but admitting to the fact that they purposely went and bought that thing because they knew the other person would have been prohibited from doing it. What are the odds that they would get someone to admit to that crime? Not very likely. So it's an illegal thing, but because it's so hard to prove, it happens a lot. Just like some of these states that have laws against texting, and Kentucky is a good example because I know it. Kentucky has a law against texting while driving. However, it doesn't say anything about not being able to talk on your phone while you're driving. You can be holding your phone while you're driving in Kentucky. And so if you get pulled over by an officer, they, one, have to be able to prove that they knew that you were texting in order to pull you over, or at least have, some they could articulate that why they believe that you was doing this, or they could pull you over for something else. They see that you have your phone out, and then say, hey, was you texting and driving? And of course, most people are like, no. Well, how are you going to prove that, right? And then the officer say, well, can I have your phone to do a download and see exactly at what time that you were doing things on this phone? And people can say, no. And then the officer will have to go to a judge and get a search warrant to get your phone to be able to try and do those things. So it's just a very unrealistic thing that you're going to get someone to admit that they were texting and driving, and it's a very hard thing to even prove to begin with. It's one of those feel-good laws, in my opinion, where people think it's going to do a lot of good, but it's one of those things that it doesn't really help. And so states like Tennessee that just have just an outright prohibition on holding your phone at all while you're driving, that's a whole lot easier for law enforcement to take action on. Because it doesn't matter what you have the phone in your hand for. The fact that you were observed with the phone in your hand is enough to pull you over and then cite you. It doesn't have to be for specific reasons, like texting and driving, and then you being able to easily lie your way out of it and be like, no, I was not texting. I was selecting a number to call, or I was answering my phone, or I was ending a phone call. So, these guns, like I said, they come into possession of these people by most likely means of stealing them, or buying them from someone who's stolen them, or getting people to go perform straw purchases for them. And that's how they get guns, right? Because convicted felons cannot go to the gun store and buy guns. It's just not happening. So how are they getting these guns? Well, lawful gun owners, right? And when we're talking about stolen guns, the lawful gun owners are the ones who are arming criminals through negligence, through carelessness. If you have a handgun it should be on you. It's very hard to steal a gun that's on a person. I'm not saying it's impossible, but generally speaking, it is difficult to steal a gun when a person has it on them. So, number one, why aren't you having this gun on you? And that should be something that needs to be addressed and fixed. You should be having your gun on you. One, it's the quickest way to be able to defend yourself, the most efficient and effective way, when you need that level of force, because it is not efficient or effective to be like, hold on, let me go to my car, open the glove box, and get my self-defense gun. Or, hey, hang on, let me go to my closet and reach on the top shelf and grab my gun. When these people are leaving guns at home or leaving them in the car, these guns are accessible and operable to unauthorized people, despite the fact they have locked their doors. So in the case of a gun being left at home, your door can be easily kicked in. Your window can be easily broken and someone can crawl in. And so when your handgun is or rifle is left in the open or is somewhat concealed, maybe, behind a door or in the closet, in a coffee table, in a nightstand, in the sock drawer, it doesn't take anything just to pull those things open or reach into the closet and grab the thing. So it's still accessible to people. And if it's out in the open and they're able to operate it, load it, chamber ammo, it's operable to people. If you're going to be leaving your house during the day and leaving your guns at home, they need to be in a safe. A safe is a contraption that makes it a whole lot harder to get access to what's inside of it. Doesn't make it impossible. All safes can be defeated. Even the safe at Fort Knox can be defeated. Different safes just require a different amount of time and skill set to get them open. But a safe adds more time and complexity for a person to gain access to it. It is a version of putting prescription narcotics in a child-proof bottle. We would all agree that if you had prescription narcotics like Oxy or Percocets, something like that, or you had like some high strength muscle relaxers, and you got this prescription and you just opened the pill bottle and poured the pills out onto the table and left them laying there, we would all agree that that is negligent. That's irresponsible. Especially if you have children in the home. Why would you do stuff like that? Small children don't know the difference between pills and candy. They may think the pills are candy and start eating them and then could OD. All reasonable people would agree that's negligent, and that a person who does that should have some type of criminal liability coming their way. To me, leaving a gun outside of a safe in a home is the same as pouring prescription pills on a table and just letting them sit there. I see no difference between the two. It is negligent. If that gun is not on you, it needs to be secured. You leave home for 8, 10, 12, 16 hours out of the day, and you leave your gun sitting on the nightstand, inside the nightstand, under your pillow. it is easily accessible to anyone. Doesn't take much to be able to gain access to that. And it's negligent to do that. Same as your car. You leave a gun in the middle console of your car or the glove box of your car, or you try to tuck it under the seat. Leaving that there is negligent. Car windows can be broken pretty easily. Some glove boxes don't even lock. And I don't know of any middle consoles that lock. So if you're leaving in the middle console, that is 110% negligent, because anybody could gain access to that. You can get a safe to mount in the trunk of your vehicle. You can get a safe with a steel tether on it that you can anchor to the car seat frame, so that you can put your gun in there and walk away from the car, and it takes more effort to try to get that gun out. More effort than what the common criminal wants to mess with. Because they're all about smash and grab, smash and grab. And sometimes they don't even have to smash. Sometimes they just open the door because people leave their cars unlocked. So they get in, they grab the high value items, and then they go. They're not sitting around. They don't have like little MacGyver Swiss Army knives, and they're not tinkering with the locks. They're not like the lock picking lawyer. They don't have this cool lock pit set with them, and they're putting tension on the cylinder and raking the pins in the lock. Like, they're not doing that. Many of them are too stupid to know how to do that. So they're smashing and grabbing. They're trying to take the things. If it's a safe that's tethered to the seat, yeah, they may try to tug on it and rip on it and try to break it to get it to come with them. But they're not going to spend that much time beyond that messing with that thing. The longer they stay there, the longer they increase their chances of being caught. And they don't want to get caught. So they're just going to leave it, right? They're going to say, I can't break this. I can't get this to come loose. Screw it. I already got stuff. I'm going to go. There's options, but people are too lazy to do those things. And gun owners are going to find out. Hopefully they don't, but I think it's just inevitable. But gun owners are going to find out that they are their own worst enemy, because they are supplying the criminal elements a lot of times with guns, and good guns too. And the anti-gun crowd is logging all of these murders that occur with guns and labeling them as gun violence. And their statistics for gun violence is increasing, right? Like, obviously, murders are increasing and stuff like that. It has nothing to do with the presence of guns. I mean, they're still going to kill regardless. It's more related to our failing criminal justice system and not holding anybody accountable that's accounting for why these murders are rising, and also the fact that police are having their hands tied behind their backs. But nonetheless, the murder rates are rising. And since a lot of these offenders are using firearms, that of course is causing their statistics of gun violence to be up there. I mean, it's swelling. And so with the change in society, we have a very soft society now. It's only going to get softer, I think. Eventually it's going to catch up, and I think we're going to see some very bad gun laws get passed that are going to hurt us. And it's going to be because of negligent gun owners and the way they carelessly store their guns. Now, you would think that would be a simple concept, like lock your gun up if you're not wearing it. Like, if you don't have it on you, lock it up. What good is your gun to you if you're at work And it's at your house. Why does it need to be out in the open at your house when you're not even there? Lock it up. But then people are like, they're like, my rights, my rights. And, well, they shouldn't be breaking into my house. Yeah, you're right. They shouldn't be breaking into your house. That's wrong of them to be doing. But it's also wrong of you to be leaving your gun laying around to make it easily stealable. But I don't know. What do I know, right? And just one last thing, just the kind of randomness of this. Like, what are the odds that these two would have been this close to each other and an extremely short amount of time later, one is going to violently die? And that this violent murder is going to occur within, I mean, what would you think the distance was? Like between 50 and 80 feet? Like literally, like he could have took the bag of M&Ms that he had and threw it at the car and hit it. Like it was not that far of a distance at all. So like the odds of that, like it's just crazy to think that these two were so close together, maybe even like looked at each other, like made eye contact, and then within a matter of seconds, this guy's being violently murdered in and out of his own car, just like 50, 70 feet away from this guy. So it's a powerful image to really illustrate and drive home that anything can happen at any time, and you have to be ready at moment's notice for anything to happen at any time. And it's easy to say that, but it goes deeper than that, because to be ready at all times means you're in a state of hypervigilance. And being in a state of hypervigilance for a long period of time is very mentally taxing. And that can lead to some physical taxation. All that stress and everything of just always being on alert, that can cause some physical issues for you. On top of whatever mental issues that it can be incurring as well. So this is something that people are starting to kind of figure out and talk about. It is not good to be at that high level of hypervigilance all the time. It is almost in a way traumatizing for the human brain. And so when you start looking at trauma in the brain and everything, and PTSD, could go talk a whole lot about that, but we'll save you on that. It does. It affects the brain, and especially from younger people, you can see a change in their brain from trauma and everything, and you can get some degree of trauma and PTSD from this level of just hypervigilance, like always being on alert all the time, and it's hard to maintain that hypervigilance all the time, and you're not going to have 100% awareness for 8, 10, 12 hours out of the day. There's going to be times where that vigilance is decreased a little bit. For example, this environment here. This is an environment that people find themselves in a lot. Pretty much every modern person here in the U.S. visit the gas station. Even the people with electric vehicles are going to gas stations, right? Because they have things like drinks and chips and cigarettes. So, lots of people are going to gas stations. And it's a very common place to go into. And when you think about how many times you go into one spot and nothing serious happens, can you imagine that eventually your level of vigilance will eventually go down a few notches when you go into this environment where you're accustomed to it, you're familiar with it, nothing bad has happened to you there. It's conceivable that you may become a little bit less on your guard. What if that guy that was in that car decided he was going to come in and kill this guy right here? Well, I think at first he would have noticed the patrol car parked out front, and that would probably deter him. But what if that patrol car was parked on the other side of the building, and he didn't see that patrol car? And this officer was back it up where the officer's not even in line, but the officer was over there getting a drink, and this dude comes in the door, comes up to kill the guy, and then the officer's boom right there, or right over in here. While this officer is making his drink selection, do you think he's constantly getting his head on the swivel? He's looking around. He hears the door, instantly turns his head to look over that way. Do you think that he is in that high drive of vigilance? I don't know, but probably not. So it's just impossible to maintain that hypervigilance at all times. But the fact that anything can happen at any time, you cannot allow yourself to go into condition white, like being completely unaware. You still have to maintain some awareness of your surroundings, especially when you're in a uniformed profession like this, whether you're law enforcement or security, because some people don't see the distinction between law enforcement and security. They see a badge and a gun. You're the 5-0. Even if you got a patch on you that says security on it, they're still seeing you as one and the same as the police. In fact, they're looking at you as the wannabe police. And that may even make them think even way less of you. But they see you as being one and the same as the guys in blue. And there's, like I said, they make no distinction between the two, and they'll shoot security just as fast as they'll shoot cops. So not allowing yourself to get into condition white and staying in condition yellow while in uniform. There will be varying degrees of how much strength-wise you are in condition yellow. Are you on the low end of the spectrum? Are you on the high end of the spectrum? Are you at a 10% condition yellow, or are you at a 75% condition yellow? It can fluctuate, right? But you want to be in that condition yellow where you are taking note of your surroundings. You are head on a swivel. Movement occurs. You're checking that movement out. If you're in a public store and you hear the ding dong of the door opening, you need to be looking in that direction. Turn and look. Who's coming through that door right now? Because, like I said, anything can happen at any time. And here recently, just not even a week ago, Dallas police officer executed in his patrol car, taking a break in between calls. All right. Anything can happen at any time. You don't have to be on a call somewhere. You don't have to be going to a call. It could literally be you're on a break. It could be you stop to get some M&Ms and an energy drink because it's 1-something in the morning. It's third shift. You're tired. And And the fact that he, again, is he's at this store, he's just on a break, he's getting some snacks, getting a drink, and something happens out of nowhere. He went from 0 to 100 real quick. Real quick. When you think about, other incidents where officers are responding to a call, they get that radio call, or they see on the computer there's a call at such and such location, and they start heading that way. They know they're going towards something. Whether it's a 1-minute drive to the scene or it's a 5-minute drive to the scene, that's time for them to prepare themselves, right? They know they're going towards something. They can start processing and doing things to get them geared up for that. This guy, he was not en route to anything. He was on a break, getting what I think was some caramel M&Ms, possibly Oreos, but I think it was an M&M package he had, and a drink. And then boom, a murder occurring right there. So he went from 0 to 100 fast and performed well. I mean, just think of, you can't even game this in a reality-based scenario. You can't replicate this in training because something's coming, right? Like, you're at a training event, some shit's going to pop off. You got your sim gun, there's most likely going to be a shoot scenario. So there's really no good true way to train for something like this, because something's gonna happen. Something's going to occur. So this guy is completely caught off guard, right? Like 0 to 100 within seconds. Other officers who are going to calls, they know they're going to something. They know that something is going on and could potentially happen. But this guy, he's just on a break, and this happens, and it's 0 to 100 real fast, and he performs well. He goes towards the danger. He gets that gun out, puts shots at target in a very small, narrow space. Can't even see all of this guy either. You only see a portion of him. And here's another thing, we don't see any dust flying off of this brick column here. So we know he hasn't missed and hit the brick. Are all his rounds going into this guy? Potentially. It's a light enough vehicle that we don't really see any holes in the side of the car or any telltale signs that, he's put bullets into it. This window is intact. This window appears to be kind of intact. We can't really see the windshield very well. We know he's fired multiple rounds. I think maybe in that instance when he went one-handed, I think it's possible that maybe the windshield, or I'm sorry, the side window has been hit. So we see it looking somewhat kind of clear right there. And then it kind of takes on that foggy look, like it's been shattered or broke. So at least one missed round right there that we can say for sure, or say almost for sure, with a high degree of some kind of certainty. Like that's good. That's good performance right there. It really is. Like, this guy is, he's on it, man. Like, this dude's switched on. I'd like to know more, a little bit more about the scene. Like how many rounds were fired. 2, how many rounds went into the bad guy, how many was missed, and this guy's service, I think they actually say it. What was it? He's something like 37 years old, and drop sound. 9 years of law enforcement. So he's got 9 years on. So it's hard to say what he does training wise off the clock, but he may practice some on his own off the clock. He may do more than just the annual qualifications that the department mandates everyone take. I think that's a pretty good possibility that he does. Like I said, we don't see any dust, particulate matter coming off that brick column when he fires multiple rounds. We don't see any dark spots in the side of this car right here. Don't see any shattered glass right here. And based off, prior incidents, prior videos, there's generally a lot of missed rounds with law enforcement, and don't see anything that looks like he's been missing right there. I would say he's probably missed 1 or 2 rounds. But yeah, I mean, great performance. Went to 0 to 100 without any forewarning that anything could be going on. Dude's on a break, getting snacks and a drink, and bam, this happens, and he performs well. So I like this guy. All right, not much of anything else to talk about. Nope. I think I've covered all I want to cover. So if you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.